Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Reggie Williams. He is a director and writer from New York. And yeah, we met back in 2019 at the Black Web Fest, and it's great to have him on the show and be able to catch up. So, how are you, Reggie?
I'm doing good, Kashif. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. As I was telling you just before we start recording, like we met when your organization called the Black Film Space did a workshop, a screenwriting workshop at Black Web Fest, and it was a really great screenwriting workshop. I remember one of the filmmakers there. He submitted his script, and we all read it aloud and gave feedback, and it was such a great, just a great experience to be able to being essentially like in a writer's room, and that was really cool. So yeah, so tell us about you, Reggie. Like, how did you start in this industry as like a writer director?
Yeah, so it started a while ago, back when I was about 18, 19 years old. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I was like, I'm really interested in making movies. So let me go to film school. So I ended up transferring to Emerson College, which is right in the middle of Boston. It's a really great film school. And I ended up studying writing for film and television, performing a lot of stand-up comedy at the time, wanting to be like a Chris Rock type of entertainer. And over time, I ended up moving to New York City. I stopped performing stand-up comedy, or as I like to tell people, I retired. I did do it for about 4.5 years, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to stay in the entertainment industry. So I was like, let me learn how to direct. So I ended up interning at a documentary production company. And from there, I ended up making a documentary and shooting wedding videos and music videos, and eventually, created my own short film, Anomalous Love.
Amazing, amazing. And how did you come up with Anonymous Love? Like, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, and I do have to correct myself. It's in Anomalous Love.
Oh, okay.
And that's basically I had this idea of what it would be like to date an older woman,
Hmm.
a woman who's like 15, 20 years older than myself. And is that something that is realistic? Like, what would it be like to be in that sort of relationship? Because a lot of men date younger women, but it's doesn't happen as often when men date older women. So I'm just really fascinated by that, and I'm fascinated by love stories that are unlikely to kind of last. And so I just kind of played around with that idea, and I was like, I'm really fascinated with this sort of story. I want to make a feature film. I haven't made the feature film, but I made the short film as a template to get more experience directing, get my name out there, get this film out there, and yeah, that's how it came about.
Nice. And was it based on your own like experience? Have you dated an older woman before?
I typically tell people I've dated a woman who's 75 years old, and then I hold I hold a straight face for about 10 seconds, and people are like, "Are you serious or not?" No, I haven't done that, but it is something that fascinates me, because there are people out there who are in these sort of relationships, and they make it work. And to me, I find that to be very fascinating.
No, I agree because you do see some women who are maybe 10 years older than their husband, stuff like when I think about celebrities like Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade, like she's older than him.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it is a thing, but it's so much more common to see a man older than a woman by sometimes 10 years or 20 years. So it is quite interesting, especially because it's like a black couple as well. So, it's
yeah.
not really discussed that much in the black community. So it's good to see that you kind of explored that. So yeah, so how has it been doing in like since you put it out there? Did you put it in the festival run? Like what happened since you put it out?
Yeah, I think it did pretty well, especially since this was my first film where that I wrote and directed. Like, I had made content before where I was writing, producing, or acting, and I did sketches. But you know, this is my first short film that I wrote and directed. I'm very proud of it. I think it looks, you know, good. I think it's a solid piece of work. It did screen at Urban World Film Festival, as well as Pan African Film Festival and the Roxbury Film Festival. So I think those are solid film festivals to get into.
Nice. That's really good. That's really good. That's really good. And do you have any films in development at the moment? Like, what else have you got coming up as well?
Yeah, so I'm writing the feature length version of An Anomalous Love,
Great.
and I'd like to shoot that soon, like within a year or two.
Mhm,
But right now, I'm working on a web series
mhm.
that I'll be shooting in September of 2021, and it's about 5 roommates who are struggling to who it's about 5 roommates who want to be better than average, but struggle to get there. And it's a comedic web series, satirical, it's edgy, it's ridiculous, that sort of thing.
Sounds good. Sound good. And how have you been able to fund your projects like Anonymous Love and your upcoming web series, and then eventually the feature film of Anonymous Love?
Right now, I'm self-funding.
Hmm.
So I self-funded an Anomalous Love. I'm going to self-fund this web series. And right now, I prefer to self-fund
Hmm.
because it's quicker rather than like trying to raise money, find investors, and these are like pet projects that I want to have,
Okay.
you know, 100% control over. But soon enough, I could very well do a crowdfunding campaign or start looking for like investors and grants and stuff like that.
Okay, that's really good. I mean, I totally understand. I've self-funded the majority of my projects because it is quicker, and the quickest way to build your reputation in this industry is to just make it yourself instead of waiting around for funding,
Yeah,
because they won't even want to give you the money if you haven't done anything, because they're going to say, well, how do we know you can pull it off? So that makes total sense. That makes it.
yeah.
How much did it cost you to fund like your projects so far?
Anomalous Love was about close to
Oh, wow.
$10,000. Yeah,
Wow.
it's close to 10,000. Yeah.
Wow, I mean, to self-fund a $10,000 like project, I put my hands up to you. I mean, that is amazing.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I with my projects, like, I mean, I did web series as well, but I probably spent in total £20,000, UK pounds,
Mm,
on it. But then I did like 3 web series, so I was able to at least spend about £4,000 to £5,000 per season on it. So yeah, but wow, to do that for
that's
one
pretty
short
good.
is amazing. So that's really, really good. Okay. So like I mentioned before, also know that you're the co-founder of the Black Film Space. How did that come about?
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. Londe Yusuf is the other co-founder of Black Film Space, and I Facebook friended her. I did not know who she was, and you know, she was like, "Oh, you're a filmmaker," blah blah blah. You know, and we ended up meeting up for lunch to talk shop. During that lunch, we talked about our goals, what we thought of the entertainment industry as it pertains to Black people, and we were like, hey, we should bring our colleagues together, our Black colleagues together for a happy hour. And we did that. And then when we, you know, it was a good turnout, like 40 something odd people. And people were like, when is the next event? So we put together a screenwriting workshop, and they were like, when's the next event? So we put together a directing workshop. And then it just snowballed from there, and it was very organic. People, you know, were very appreciative, and they said they need this. And Londe and I, you know, we're on the same page and still have been on the same page about our vision for, you know, Black creatives and how to offer opportunities and offer opportunities for Black content creators to grow.
That's really good. And when did you start it? When did you launch the Black Film Space?
This was October 2015 was our first event. So it was almost 6 years ago.
That's really good. That's really good. I mean, to me, it really is a great community and organization you created. Because even though I just had a workshop, I joined in at Black Web Fest in 2019. Like, I just knew that that's such a great space for Black creators, because sometimes, you know, it's really hard for you to network with other creatives, you know, and at least you able can come to a place and bounce off ideas of each other and help improve your script or your film or your show, whatever you're working on. And I think that's what was really good about it. And it wasn't a space where people were being rude. It was really a sense of community, and that's what was really
Mm-hmm.
good, because yeah, you're going to get feedback, but there's always a way of like being constructive as well. So I think that's really good. So like, what plans do you have next for it? Because it's been 6 years. I'm sure you've been affected by COVID, like everyone. So like, have you been able to like overcome that, and what have you got planned for the future?
Yeah, in regards to COVID, um, it actually has worked out to our benefit in regards to just growing the community. Because we're based in New York, and we had hosted one event in LA right before COVID.
Mhm.
But during the pandemic, everyone's at home, people are looking for things to do, and people still want to be active in some way or another. So we were able to grow the community outside of New York and LA. We had people from Canada, from the UK, from Nigeria, from different cities in America, Atlanta, Chicago, et cetera, coming to our events and becoming members. So earlier this year, we did launch a membership plan where folks can pay, monthly or annual subscription and get into events for free and be eligible for grants, be eligible for our mentorship program. So, the first 4 or 5 years, for the most part, our mission was just like programming, which is great. But as we're moving into this nonprofit space and looking to grow as an organization, we do want to offer like significant career changing opportunities. So more grants, more mentorship programs, um, just programs that, we want to act as a pipeline to the industry. So we want to be able to give resources or give opportunities for Black filmmakers to learn and to connect with each other, but then also give direct industry pipeline opportunities to folks that have been doing this for a while and that are part of our community.
That sounds really good. That sounds really good. I mean, that's the best thing I feel like to do as a Black creative, to like not only just help yourself, but then also help create opportunities for other Black people, because we know how non-diverse this industry is. And so just to create that branch, or, to be able to allow somebody to get in, it's good. And I mean, it just seems like it's just the beginning. I know you've been doing it for 6 years, but you guys are going to continue to grow and grow. So that's really good. So, like, what are some of your inspirations, like, as a director? Whose work do you really are inspired by, or you'd love to, you know, get to their level of success?
Um, as far as like filmmakers, it's interesting. There are filmmakers that inspire me, but I don't really like their work.
Okay.
I like their work ethic.
Mhm.
And then there are filmmakers that there's a few filmmakers that I'm like, I would love to have my work be kind of like that. So I really like Woody Allen's work.
Mhm.
One of my favorite movies is Annie Hall, and I would love to make something that is funny and intelligent and sophisticated, but also really well respected.
Right.
I really like, silly, witty comedies. I want to be able to go in between like something sophisticated and witty and romantic to also just something absurd and stupid. And
Mhm.
I really, like Woody Allen's work. As far as like filmmakers that I respect, um, I would love to have an audience like Tyler Perry, like someone that is um, has a really core audience that's gonna support him no matter what. That sort of audience. But honestly, I would love to have a large audience, but that's not what really drives me, because if I focus too much on that, it'll I think it might lead me down the wrong path in life. So I want to make great work. I do want an audience, but I don't want to be obsessed with like being an A-list director.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. And what would you say is your aesthetic and style as a writer director as well?
I would say kind of what I said earlier. As a writer, my sense of humor is absurd. Like this web series I'm working on, it's absurd. It's politically incorrect. It's satirical. But a film like An Anomalous Love it's a bit more sophisticated. It's a bit more witty. Like some of the jokes people may not even get at all. It's very, very niche sort of style of writing. It's very dialogue heavy. Film is a visual medium. Yeah. Right now, I'm writing very dialogue heavy. That's one of my strongest abilities is to write good dialogue.
Okay. And as a writer, do you ever just write projects and then give it to someone else to direct, or do you like to just write and direct your own stuff?
I prefer to write and direct. Yeah. Okay. I want to have control over my writing. Yeah. I mean, a certain way I want it to look.
Yeah. I totally understand. And have you also directed other people's work, or you just stick to your own as well?
I haven't directed other people's work. I've directed a few music videos, but I haven't like directed a scripted narrative project yet. I don't know if that's something I really want to do. I mean, if someone offered me, a lot of money or good money, then I'd be open to it. But I have so many ideas that I'm like, I really want to get out there. That my priority is to direct my own writing.
And as a writer-director, because I know you're working on a web series and then you also are working on the Anonymous Love feature film, what do you prefer, TV or film? Like to go forward and you make money and somebody's offering you like millions of dollars to make something, what would you do, a film or a show?
That's such a good question. And I'm torn in between, because when I was growing up, I really wanted to have a sitcom. And I just love the idea of watching characters evolve over multiple seasons, like 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons.
Yeah, me too.
But if I had to choose, it would be film, because I really enjoy the experience of getting out the house, going to the movie theater, and having like a bunch of people in the audience react to my work or another film. You know what I mean? Like I love that experience. I love going out. Sometimes I don't even go to the movie theaters. I just walk by the movie theaters and there's like a long line of people waiting to go to the movies. And like cinema just has such a bigger, historically, I know it's changing as literally as I'm talking, but historically cinema has had such a large impact culturally. Movies typically have historically had a larger impact, and I would love that sort of impact, but I understand that I still think there'll be a market for movies, for the foreseeable future, but I understand that it's changing.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like, I love TV and I'd love to do a show, but then I also want to have the experience of like, having a film premiere and going to the cinema and watching everybody react and really engage with what you've put out there and see if they found that bit funny or they really found that part shocking. Like, it's just the feel of it, surround sound system, the massive monitor, being in the nice seats. Yeah, I totally understand it. So yeah, definitely.
And like the no one shoots on film anymore, but like film, or people rarely shoot on film, but film was made for the big screen. Like TV is not, it's not new, but I mean, film has been around since the late 1800s, early 1900s, whereas TV is like 1950s, like late 1950s, mid 1950s. So it's really made like, this is supposed to be on the big screen, as much as I love watching TV and I love being at home watching TV, like this thing is supposed to be on the big screen. Like that's where the magic is film.
Yeah, exactly. I totally understand, because TV, even though it's weird to say, it's still relatively new, compared to film. Anyway, it's relatively new. I mean, now TV is treated like film, with such big budgeted productions like Game of Thrones and stuff. Like they're throwing millions into shows now, and they never used to do that. So yeah, it's competing heavily with TV, because look at like WandaVision and Loki and all these other shows on Disney Plus. Like, they've got such huge budget shows, and exact same quality as a film, but they're just adapting it. But nothing beats going to the cinema and watching a good film for 2 hours. So I totally get that. So that's really cool. So where can people find you, Reggie, like to check out your work and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at PR Reggie, like PR as in Puerto Rico, although that's not what it stands for. PR Reggie. And then you can look up Black Film Space on all social media, as well as our website, blackfilmspace.com.
Great. And lastly, before we go, what is the best piece of advice you've received as a writer-director?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the best advice I could give.
Well, you could do that as well.
Yeah, I think I'd rather do that. I can't think of anything that I've received. Anything that no one's heard a million times. But as far as like what I could give would be be patient, because film is a lifelong journey. So a lot of filmmakers who are like the bigger directors that are working in TV and in film, they're like middle-aged people, like it rarely happens in your 20s, and maybe you could break in your 30s, but a lot of times people don't break in until like the late 30s, 40s. And nowadays, like I don't even think it matters at all. Like someone can break in at any age. So and it takes time to get really good. It takes time to get really, really good. Yeah. So be patient. It's a lifelong journey.
Right. Great advice. I totally agree. I mean, this industry is so hard. You literally have to either work so hard to get to the top, or really just hustle for years, and then the opportunity will just come when you least expect it. That's just how it is. And it doesn't matter what age it is. You could be 50 and get your big break, So totally understand that.
Yeah.
So great, really good advice. So thanks again, Reggie, for joining me on my podcast. It was great talking to you and catching up. Hopefully I can come to NYC soon. This COVID has just blocked all out people who aren't American getting into the country. So hopefully I can come to NYC soon and come to another Black Film Space event, because that'd be really, really cool. So yeah, so thanks again, guys, for tuning in. You can follow me all on my socials at the Kashif Booothe Podcast or Kashif Booothe Entertainment. Thanks again, guys.